Okay, so we have a proposal, we added a specification to it, and now it's time to add elevations. First, I'd like to show you the system configuration. Okay, if we go back to the system, it's going to give us the shim spaces, the receptor deductions, the amount to add to vinyl. So these are all properties that help us understand what is the correct size of the frame relative to the opening size. When we look at this particular configuration, the one that we selected for the basis of this proposal, we have two different types of heads. We have three different types of mullions. Um, all of these components are going to be drawn into the elevation based on whether they're default or not default. Okay, there can only be one default component for each type. That's probably about enough to understand what we need to do in terms of actually drawing it. So let's get started. The same properties are displayed over here. You'll notice that we'll give this a name. Type C works for me. You'll notice that the opening size by default is 100 by 100. The frame size is reduced by the shim spaces and the receptor sizes. The typical face dimensions, actually each of the components has a face dimension, so you could have, various types of corner mullions and so on. We can put in the number of columns and rows that we'd like to have, quantity of frames perhaps. Any of the components that we click on give us the opportunity to make changes, so we could select a different type of glass component. We could insert a horizontal, delete it. We could also change the width and height. So when we have a check mark indicating that it's variable, it's going to fill the space that remains to be filled. If we change the height to say 24 inches, then it's no longer variable. If we allow it to be variable, then it's going to fill the space. If we make this 24, then this one is variable, it'll become larger. Notice also, if we want to add a door, we need to click on the glass in the bottom row. So we'll go ahead and put a door in, let's say Panic Hardware. We'll give the door a label. Maybe on the plans it's 101, right-hand door. Swings out, has a transom. Suppose that we would like for our transom to contain steel. Okay, and maybe we want a bumper threshold. So all of the various options, component types, rails, everything that the supplier supports can be put in to this menu. It will show up as a list of selectable options. So when we include that door, you'll notice that it replaces everything in this elevation in terms of the parts. It also goes fully to the floor. Our door frame is taller than the fixed frame, so the size of this component, 119 and a quarter. Our door frame is 119 and 5/8. We can also access, the various other components, change them to different types if we care to. You change up the wall jamb type, no anchorage, okay. And then finally, we can also look at qualifying this with structural constraints. And what this does, this is going to give us an indication of how much deflection there is based on the span and so on and so forth. We could choose a reinforced mullion, And while this isn't, so maybe we want to set this for all components. While this isn't a substitute for actual engineering, it could be useful in figuring out what you should be bidding. We could also set the height of the horizontals to match up with the door frame. We could alternatively manipulate the daylight size of the glass. So we'll just set this one equal to the door frame. And on this side, so we have 30 and 5/8. So we can change our daylight height to 30 and 5/8. And we can apply that to every row. Can change up the width of the lights. Maybe this is only 24. And could be that we want to insert a horizontal. Okay. And once we save that, we can open it up again and edit it. We can look at the parts list. We can add another elevation here. We could delete this elevation. We can also add an elevation to the same specification here. There might be a type A that's only 50 by 50 containing that, and there could be a quantity of 5. Okay.